Hey everyone, so this is going to be my presentation on the Musculoskeletal 3 video project that we are assigned for Bio 162. So the first part of this is I'm just going to briefly go over how I like to learn the actions of new muscles that we learn. So the first thing I like to think of, where is the location? Where is the general location? By thinking about the general location, you're not going to 100% know what the action is, but you can maybe start to figure out like, okay, what does this muscle have to do with this certain area? How does it, correspond with other muscles that are nearby? And maybe thinking greater and more deeply, we'll be able to figure this out. So the attachment points. This is one of the most crucial parts of knowing the muscle, um, knowing muscle motion. So as we can see here, for my example, I'm looking at the levator scapulae, and it is attached to the cervical vertebrae, and it is also attached laterally to the superior angle of the scapula. And then, again, if I'm having a little bit tougher of a time trying to figure out, what is the motion of this muscle, what happens when the muscle is constricting, I think of the name. So the levator scapulae, the term levator sounds like elevator and can be also derived from the term levitate. So looking at that, it can be implied that because it's attached to the scapula, when this muscle constricts, it's actually raising the scapula, which in this case, that is what it does. The levator scapulae raises the scapula. So if I still can't figure out what it, like how this works or like what certain muscles do, I like to visualize the situation and act it out on myself. So what I'll do is I will put my hand on a certain part of the muscle that I'm trying to analyze, and I'll see if I can feel where it constricts, depending on which type of movement or rotation or flexion, extension, etc., whatever type of movement that I do to see if the muscle constricts. And if I can figure it out that way, then I'll know. So that's just basically my brief overview of how I like to analyze and learn the different movements that correspond with various muscle actions and how they constrict. So looking more into the rotator cuff muscles, the attachment points for the supraspinatus, which is first up, the medial attachment point is the supraspinaceous fossa, which is located right here on the scapula. It is also laterally connected to the greater tubercle of the humerus, which can be seen in this blue right here. The striations can be seen in this image right here, that it runs horizontally superior on the scapula. And the action that this muscle causes, which I'll go over later in a more in-depth annotated image of the four muscles we'll be going over. This one is abduction of the arm. So this muscle constricts and pulls when abduction of the arm occurs, which is when you move your arm straight out from you. So the infraspinatus muscle here's the location of it. Its attachment points are the infraspinous fossa, which can be seen right here on the scapula. This is the outside. And then we have the greater tubercle, very similar to the supraspinatus fossa, or the supraspinatus muscle. The striations, unlike the supraspinatus muscle, it actually runs in a diagonal V shape, and it runs medially inferiorly. So the more medial we get, the closer we move to the center point, it can actually be seen that it moves more inferior. So the action of this muscle is lateral rotation of the shoulder. And I will again show you later why in a later representation. The teres minor is the third muscle we'll be looking at, and the attachment points here are the lateral border of the scapula, shown right here, and the greater tubercle of the humerus, once again right here. And the striation of this muscle, similar to the infraspinatus muscle, is diagonal and V-shaped. It is more horizontal. It lays more on the horizontal plane, but it is still diagonal. And the action is exactly like the infraspinatus. It is responsible for lateral movement. And it also can play a role in abduction and adduction of the arm, but more importantly, lateral rotation of the shoulder. Finally, we're looking at the subscapularis, which is located on the interior portion of the scapula. Its attachment points are the subscapular fossa, which again is located on the interior side of this scapula. And its lateral connection point is the lesser tubercle on the humerus. Sorry, I was just hearing some outside noise. Some people are screaming next door. Don't know why. Anyway, back to the presentation. Its striations, as can be seen, it actually starts out to be horizontal, and as you become more lateral going along the point, it actually becomes a little diagonal, and then it will even go back to a more even horizontal striation, which is kind of unique to the subscapular, sorry. And finally, the actions for this muscle is it is responsible for medial rotation of the shoulder, and it can also play a part similar to the teres minor in abduction and adduction of the arms, which again, I will go over in a second portion of the presentation. So with that being said, this is the first portion of this project, and I thank you for watching.